We're starting from Sadi Rimal Amud Aleph, around halfway down, 2 dots. Continuing the end of the Mishnah. How to any of the guy who said you could blind me or you could break my leg, you're chayav even if he told him you're patur. However, if he did it to his garment, you're chayav unless he told him you're patur, then you're patur for the garment. So chayav automatically for bodily injuries, patur from garments only if he said explicitly you'll be patur. How come the first time you be chayav but the property patur? The first case is the person won't forgive someone else injuring his body parts, no matter what he says. But by that logic, also, a person won't forgive someone for injuring him regarding pain. Someone tells someone else, hit me or injure me, and you'll be patur. Patur. He actually is patur. How does that work? Ishtik. He didn't answer him. He said, did you ever hear anything about this? Like, do you know the answer? They know Rav Sheshat says, Mishum pega mishpacha. The reason why a person is chayav for a certain type of injuries in our Mishnah is because those injuries are referring to something that's severe, like blinding him or missing a leg, and that causes a disgrace for the family, so therefore he can't forgive it. Itmar, the three machlokan. Rav Shia says, Mishum pega mishpacha, you're chayav because there's a disgrace to the family that you cannot waive. Rav says, Mishum she'en adam mochel al roshei avrim shlo, because Rav says you can't forgive because a person will never forgive what happens to his limbs. Rabbi Yochanan says, Yesh hen shehu kilav, v'yesh lav kehu shehen. There's a yes that's like a no, and a no like a yes, referring to sarcasm. So it all depends. Hakeni pitzaini. If someone says hit me or wound me, I'm not the door that you patur. Amar lo hen, and he says yes. That's a yes, that means a no. If someone says to his friend, tear my garment, I'm not the store, and the guy says, am I going to be patur? Amar lo, love, no way. Yani, hare love, shehu can, that's a no, that's a yes. Right? So he's introducing sarcasm. Someone told his friend, break my jug, tear my garment, you're chayav. Regarding someone watching your items, the only time you're chayav, if you tell the guy to watch it, which means I don't want you to lose it. I want you to guard it, but don't tear it yourself. Watch it, but don't give it to aniyim. So we see, in general, the only reason a person is hayav for something that gets destroyed or torn, if you told him to watch it. But it sounds like if you just told him regular, if you told him to tear it, he'd be patur. The Akamar says you're hayav. In the case of the Mishnah, where the guy picked up the item, I found this shirt. He's like, hey, can I rip your shirt? I'd love it. But in the case of the Braita, where you're patur, is when he was given to him to tear it. He says, hey, here's my shirt, you tear it. Rabba says to Ravuna, but the Mishnah, the Braita over there says, it sounds like a guy shall give to his friend to watch, which means he already had it before it was given to him to tear. He was giving it to him to watch first, not to outright to tear right away. And then Rabba gives an answer. Both cases, he already had it in his hand. Still no stira. In the first, in our Mishnah's case, where he was already watching it, and therefore he said, you know what, you could tear it, then you're chayav. In the second case, he gave it to him already, but then he told him you could tear it. There's a purse full of money up to the company that arrived in Pupatita. Yosef, we know from 2 months ago, was the treasurer for the Aniyim. He gave it to a certain person to watch it, to give it to the Aniyim. Pashaba, he was negligent. Atugan veganua, and thieves stole it. Yosef required him to pay. Baya told him, but you could give someone to watch, but not to give out to Aniyim. Therefore, he should be patur if he's negligent. The Aniyim of Pumpatita are different. Since they are given a set amount every week, therefore they kind of already have their portions already allotted out. Therefore, it's considered being watched over and not for aniyim. End of Perek 8. Hadran Allah ha-chovel, Hadran Allah ha-chovel, Hadran Allah ha-chovel. New Perek, Tadi Rimal, Amud Bet. Ha-gozel, Aitzim, Ba'asa, Kelim, someone stole a piece of wood and made it into an item. Piece of wool and made it into garments. You pay the value at the time of the robbery. If you saw a pregnant cow and it gave birth, or a sheep that had wool, and then he sheared it. He pays the value of a pregnant cow. And the value of a sheep that is ready to be shorn, to get sheared. He stole the cow, but it became pregnant while he had it, and then he gave birth. If we had a sheep that got wool after he stole it, and then he sheared it. You still pay the value of that robbery. All robberies are paid at the time of the robbery. All robbers pay at the time of robbery. It doesn't make a difference what happened before or after. Okay, Amri is a problem. It seems Vasan claimed in the case of the Mishnah said that you have wood and you made it into utensils. It sounds like you acquired it, right? Because what does that mean that you have to pay the value? I mean, you're not returning the actual item. You're paying the $1,000 the item was worth beforehand, which means that because something changed, you were konet, right? So therefore, we're going to talk about that concept, about the kinyan that was made due to changes. Meaning, if I had a regular item, if I stole the water bottle, nothing changed to the water bottle, I should return the water bottle. But the problem is, over here in these cases, is that a physical change happened, and that's why you have to return money instead. It says, so if you stole wood and you made it into utensils, you acquired it. Shipan lo, but if you just planed them, you clean them first, then you're not acquiring it. Sounds like if you only made it, if you had wool and you made it into garments in you acquired it. Lebanon blow, but if only whitened them, then you should return it. But I mean, if you stole a piece of wood and you only planed them, stones, you chisel them, similar for the banan, you whitened wool, fishtan v'neikahu, you clean the flax, mishlan kishatak, you pay the value. So we see that even planing the wood, we'll call it cleaning the wood, and whitening the wool alone without making it into utensil or garments, that's enough to make a kinyan that you'd be chayav to pay the value without returning it. So how come our Mishnah gave a case that seemingly was the next level, right? Oh, if you made it into garments, not necessarily. Even if you just whiten the wool or planed out the wood, you still be paying the value and not returning it. What's going on? Amar Rabbi answers, referring to a case. Our Mishnah is referring to a case. It's teaching you Hachamim recognize that certain changes are dirabanan. Even if they're reversible, you still have to pay the value. The coach can change the sure the case. That's irreversible. It seems like in case the Mishnah that you said if you stole wood and made it into utensil, referring to plain wood. What's that? Nisari made it into boards. Right? Technically, you could just give that back. And that's a change that can be given back to original form. Because if you want, you can pull it apart. In the case of wool that made it into clothing, but is referring to spun wool. It's easily reversible. The ease because he can't take it apart. The can do that in the short case of the that if you whitened it in an irreversible way, you for sure should pay the value. Is referring to Shinu Duraita Katani is referring to cases of Duraita, but Shinu Duraban Katani is not mentioned talking about changes made the Rabanan. Ashi gives the different answer. And Adidan, our Mishnah, Namishin Duraita Katani is also referring to Duraita cases. It seems when it says that he made it into utensils, Behuni is referring to a pestle. The Hainu Shipan. A pestle is the bowl that you make to grind the spices. So when you planing out the wood into the smooth bowl that you want to make, you're already making it into a kli at that point. So it doesn't mean that planing will be different than utensils, but rather talking about a case where the planing was the utensil, like makab patish in Shabbat. The hainu shikon, that's planing it. Some of in the case of wool, is referring to namte. You made it into felt. The hainu shinu but that's also a change that doesn't revert, right? So by changing it, by whitening it and pressing it down with whatever you're pressing down with to make it into a felt garment, that's irreversible and doraita. But we said earlier that whitening will be considered a change. But I mean, law is speaking to no in the case of a the hayub of giving the first shearings of your animal, you're supposed to give to the kohen. So now, if you change that, then you're patur. So what does that mean? If in the case the Breta says if you sheared the animal and you dyed it, you're patur, meaning it's changed and you keep it. You can't give it to the kohen anymore. In midin the mitzvah. Lebinov looks well, but if you only whiten the beard and dye it, chayav. So we see whitening is not enough of a change to make it a kinyan for yourself. In the case of the robbery, which we said whitening is considered a change, that's according to Rabbi Shimon. Harabam, in the case of the shearings, that whitening is not considered a change, it's according to Chachamim, right? The Tanya V'Braita. If you sheared the wool and you spun it or wove it, and mitzaref, you cannot combine that wool with the wool that's being continuously sheared off. Lebno, if you whiten the wool that you already took, Rabbi Shimon Omer, and mitzaref, Rabbi Shimon says you can't combine it, meaning it already changed. Chachamim mitzaref, it does combine, nothing happened. We see that's machlokes. Rav Amar Rav says different answer. Rabbi Shimon read both according to Rabbi Shimon. But kasha still not a stira. Had the nafse nafuse in the case of the Mishnah of the shearings, where whitening is not considered a change, that's referring to where he cleaned it by disentangling it and removing dirt. In the case of the Raita, where it's considered a change, is where he combed it, which is more of a change. Okay. The Mishnah is a different answer. Mishnah is referring to the case of the shearings where it's not a change, it's referring to where he washed it. In the case of the Braita, is where he bleached it, that's more of a change. Right? So now it seemingly says that we're going to prove that even dyeing, which is more than whitening, will not be considered a change according to Rabbi Shimon. So now libu have a shinui, but so how can he hold that whitening will be considered shinui? Right? Tanya Braita. Gazaz Rishon Mitzvah. He shared the sheep one by one and he dyed each one. Or he spun each one at a time. Rishon Barugo, every one by one wove, and Misaref does not combine. It's acquired. Rabbi Shimon. If he only dyed it, Misaref, it does combine. So we see Rabbi Shimon holds that dyeing is not considered a change. So for sure, whitening is not considered a change. These are Chachamim talking according to Rabbi Shimon's opinion. Rabbi Shimon ben Yudah, Rabbi Shimon, and the second Braita is referring to Rabbi Shimon according to Rabbi Shimon ben Yudah according to Rabbi Shimon. Right, so machlokes on who's saying what. Rav Amar says, nah, there is no machlokes. Dyeing is different than whitening because dyeing can be undone via detergent. Reversible. And Mishnah said that you didn't have time to, after you dyed it, your patur. Why, if that's considered acquisition, how is that possible? The Okina Kedira called according to everybody, the Kalailan Lavar is referring to where he dyed it with a very special type of indigo blue, which is not removable, which is not reversible. That's why that case is different. Marabaya says, Rabbi Shimon ben Yudah ben Elazar ben Yaakov, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar ben Ishmael. All these rabbis hold that if you made a change of an item, that's a physical change, it does not remove possession of the original owner. So if you stole an item from someone and you changed it, it does not matter. It goes back to the owner. All these rabbis. Rabbi Shimon ben Yudah hadamran. We had just now the case of Rabbi Shimon ben Yudah, we just mentioned now regarding the dyeing of the wool. That even if he dyed it, it still combines the other ones. It doesn't change possession. What's the Braita of Bet Shammai? The Tanya Braita says, we mentioned earlier, like 2 months ago, regarding a zonah. Someone pays for a zonah. The things that were used for the zonah cannot be used as a korban forever. Whether it's an animal, flour, wine, etc. So, Braita says if he gave her wheat, Basan sold it made into flour. Zetim, if you give her olives, Basan shemini made into oil, Aravim grapes, Basan lahain made into wine. Tani had the one Braita says asur. You cannot use that for a korban, even though it changed. Betanya idach, another Braita says mutar. You can use it. Amar Yosef, Tani Gurion. The Braita was taught in Gurion, de me Aspurk from Aspurk. Sorry, Bet Shammai says it's asur because what does it mean? Bet Shammai says mutar to use. So what do we see Bet Shammai saying it's asur? Meaning even though it changed, it still belongs to the currency that was used for the zonah, and therefore it's still asur. My time at Bet Shammai, what does Bet Shammai say it's asur? Amar Kada Basuk says gam shnehem. Also, both of them. What does it also include? The rabot shinuhem, even if it changed, meaning if you use the purchase for a zuna or another thing included in this halakha, also you use it to buy a dog. Those things can, even if they go under, even if they go through a change, you still can't use it. Betilal says, Betilal says, Amar Kra, the pasuk says hem. Pasuk says hem, which means only the things that were given, v'lo shinuhem. It means the changes that can be used as a korban, like the olives to oil or grapes to wine. Also says him. What does he do with that? He needs it for him, him. That's referring to the actual items, not if they have children. The animal has a child, that child can be used. We had this Braita earlier as well. Betilal say. He learns both from the same pasuk. Him, him. The word him teaches me them, but not if it changes, and him, him, them, and not if they have an animal, a baby. Ubetil nami haktiv hem. What does he do? Gam. What does he do with the word gam that Bet Shema used? Gam the Betil kasha. Betil. It's a question according to Betil. How does he explain it? Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Mahi. What's the story of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, where he says that changes don't make an acquisition? The Tanya Berta says Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov mer hare shegazal se'ah shahitim. Someone stole a se'ah of wheat. Tehana lashav afa'a v'reish mimena hala. He ground it into the flour, kneaded it, baked it into separate hala from it. Ketem levarech. Right. So if someone stole something, made it into bread, now he wants to separate halal. What should he make bracha and halal? He can't make a bracha. So you do not make a bracha and hafreshat halal because you're smacking God in the face, God, in a way. Whoever does this is being chutzpah to Hashem. You don't make a bracha. What's the story of Bishnu Zar? Where he says the change doesn't make a difference. Tanya. Any appreciation of an item, if the item that was stolen appreciates over the time, he has the upper hand of the robber. The robber has the upper hand. If he wants, he can take it. But if he wants, he could say, here is your item back. So what's going on? My kamar, what's going on? If the item appreciated, he can take the appreciation. If it deteriorated, he could say, sorry about your item, but it got worse. Here's your item back. Because if the change happens, it happens with the original item. And therefore, he could say, if it depreciated, sorry, here it is, your item. That's the case. The same thing should happen if it got better. How come the robber can say, yeah, sorry, here's your item, they got worse. He should also have to give it back if it got better. Where it says, the reason is because we want people to do teshuvah. So if the item got better, he won't want to do teshuvah because then he has to pay more money to refund the guy. Therefore, we don't require him. Rabbi Shmuel, what's the story of Rabbi Shmuel? Tanya Breta says, mitzvah pe'ah lahafrish min hakamad. Mitzvah of pe'ah is separated from when it's a standing crop. Right, pe'ah is the corner of the field. So it's supposed to be when leaving the corner of the field while it's still standing, you give it to the ani takes it. Lo fish min hakamad, you already cut it. Mafrish min ha'arim, you could separate it from the piles. You don't separate from the sheaves. They can separate it for the aniim from the pile of kernels as long as you didn't smooth it. We'll see throughout Shas that the time where you acquire your produce is when you pile the kernels and you flatten the pile. You smooth out the pile. So over here, as long as you didn't flatten it, it is able to be used for pe'ah. Well, sorry, mencho. Once you smooth it, maaser he has to first give maaser, then you can give the pe'ah. Mishum Rishon says, after my fish, not only can you separate after you smoothen it, you could separate pe'ah from the dough after you bake it. A bigger chidush because even though it changes, he doesn't care. It's the chidush according to the Bishma.